Hello, and welcome to another gentle journey on Sleepy Professor Stories. Tonight, we settle into a quiet corner of the natural world, where delicate wings move softly through warm air, and sunlight rests gently on open meadows. Our journey drifts toward the peaceful lives of butterflies. These small travelers have been part of Earth's living story for an astonishing span of time, quietly fluttering through forests, gardens, mountain valleys, and grassy fields long before human footsteps shaped the land. As you listen, imagine a calm landscape in early morning light. Dew rests along the edges of leaves, and somewhere nearby, a butterfly lifts itself slowly into the air. Its wings move with an easy rhythm, almost like breathing. It does not rush. It simply moves where the warm currents carry it. Butterflies may seem delicate and fleeting, yet their lives are guided by deep patterns of biology that scientists continue to explore. Inside their wings and bodies are systems refined through millions of years of evolution. Their colors, their flight, even the plants they visit each day all form part of a quiet web of relationships across the living world. Tonight, we will gently wander through those patterns together. We will explore how butterflies begin their lives, how they transform their bodies in remarkable ways, how their wings shimmer with hidden structures, and how they navigate wide landscapes using senses so small they are almost impossible to imagine. But there is no need to hold on to every detail. There is nothing you need to remember. You can simply listen as the story unfolds. And if your mind begins to drift, that is perfectly welcome here. Many people enjoy listening to these quiet explorations as they relax at the end of the day. If these calm journeys help you unwind, you might consider subscribing or leaving a gentle like so that others can find this peaceful space as well. It helps the channel grow in small, steady ways. But that can wait. For now, let your breathing slow a little. Allow your shoulders to soften. Feel the quiet weight of the evening settling comfortably around you. There is nowhere else you need to go tonight. The world outside may still be busy, but here the pace is slower. Thoughts can move like soft clouds passing overhead. Nothing demands your attention. Nothing asks for effort. Butterflies live in that same slow rhythm. They do not hurry through their days. Their lives unfold in stages, each one preparing quietly for the next. From the smallest egg resting on a leaf to the slow transformation hidden inside a chrysalis. Their story is one of patience and gentle change. And that story begins in places so small they are often missed entirely. A single leaf, a tiny egg, a quiet beginning that almost no one notices. In the next moments, we'll drift toward that beginning together, where the first fragile chapter of a butterfly's life is already waiting quietly in the soft green world of leaves. If you pause for a moment and picture a calm meadow in warm sunlight, you may notice how gently the world moves there. The wind stirs the tall grass in slow waves. A few wildflowers tilt softly toward the sky. And somewhere within that quiet landscape, a butterfly drifts through the air. Its movement is unhurried. The wings open and close with a rhythm so soft that it almost resembles breathing. You might watch it rise, dip, and turn again, never quite in a straight line, as though it is simply exploring the air around it. Butterflies are often noticed for their beauty first. Their wings shimmer with color, sometimes bright orange or deep blue, sometimes pale yellow or soft white. Each species carries patterns that seem carefully painted, delicate shapes that rest lightly upon the air. Yet beneath that fragile appearance lies a small but remarkable piece of biological design. A butterfly is an insect belonging to a vast group of animals that make up most of the life forms on Earth. Its body follows a structure shared by many insects. 3 main segments, 6 legs, 2 antennae, and a pair of wings on each side. But the wings are what most people notice first. They appear almost weightless, as though made from thin petals or tiny sheets of colored glass. When sunlight passes across them, their colors can seem to glow. What gives those wings their color is not always simple pigment, the kind of coloring found in paint or ink. Instead, the surface of a butterfly's wings is covered in thousands upon thousands of microscopic scales. Each scale overlaps the next like tiny roof tiles. These scales reflect and bend light in delicate ways. Some contain pigments that absorb certain colors while reflecting others. But many butterflies create their shimmering blues and greens through structure alone. The tiny ridges and patterns in the scales scatter light so precisely that the color appears to shift and shimmer as the butterfly moves. When you see a butterfly flash blue for just a moment in the sun, you are actually witnessing light interacting with structures so small they can barely be seen even under powerful microscopes. And yet, those wings do far more than create beauty. They carry the butterfly through the air with surprising efficiency. Though the wings look fragile, their movement allows the butterfly to glide, hover, and maneuver among flowers and leaves. A butterfly does not fly in the same way as a bird. Instead of strong sweeping strokes, its wings beat with gentle pulses that create small bursts of lift. The result is that familiar drifting motion, light, wandering, almost playful. As scientists sometimes describe butterfly flight as a kind of controlled drifting. Air currents help guide them, and their wings adjust constantly to stay balanced. Even the body of a butterfly seems designed for quiet efficiency. The central segment, called the thorax, contains the powerful muscles that move the wings. Though the butterfly appears delicate, those muscles work tirelessly during flight. Attached to the thorax are the 6 slender legs. When a butterfly lands on a flower, those legs gently grip the surface, allowing it to remain steady while feeding. The head carries 2 long antennae that stretch forward like quiet instruments sensing the world. These antennae help butterflies detect scents drifting through the air, guiding them toward flowers, mates, and sometimes distant migration paths. And then there are the eyes. Butterflies do not see the world in the same way humans do. Their eyes are made from thousands of tiny lenses arranged together like a mosaic. Each lens captures a small piece of the surrounding scene. Together, they create a wide field of vision, allowing butterflies to notice movement all around them. Many species can also see ultraviolet light, a range of color invisible to human eyes. Some flowers carry ultraviolet patterns that act like quiet landing signals for pollinators. To us, the flower may look plain yellow or white, but to a butterfly, it may glow with hidden markings that guide it toward nectar. This quiet relationship between butterflies and flowers has been unfolding for millions of years. In fact, Butterflies themselves belong to an ancient lineage of insects that appeared long before humans ever walked across the earth. Their ancestors lived among early flowering plants as forests and meadows slowly spread across the planet. Over immense stretches of time, butterflies and plants evolved together. Plants offered nectar, a sweet liquid rich in energy. Butterflies, in return, carried pollen from flower to flower as they fed. Neither species planned this partnership. It emerged slowly through natural processes, generation after generation, until the connection became part of the living fabric of ecosystems. Today, butterflies can be found on nearly every continent except Antarctica. They live in tropical rainforests, mountain valleys, open grasslands, quiet gardens, and even dry desert edges. Each environment shapes the butterflies that live there. In tropical forests, species often display brilliant colors that flash like moving jewels beneath the canopy. In cooler climates, butterflies may carry softer tones of brown or orange that blend with leaves and bark. Some remain active throughout warm seasons, while others appear only briefly, their lives unfolding in quiet cycles tied to temperature and sunlight. Yet, wherever they live, butterflies share a rhythm that feels peaceful and unhurried. They rise with the warmth of the day, resting quietly during cool mornings until sunlight warms their wings. Only then do their flight muscles begin to work efficiently. You might notice how a butterfly sometimes sits with its wings spread wide in the sun. This simple posture allows the dark surfaces of its wings to absorb heat, gently warming its body. Unlike mammals or birds, butterflies cannot generate their own body heat internally. Instead, they borrow warmth from the world around them. Sunlight becomes their quiet engine. As the wings warm, movement slowly begins. A small flutter, a gentle lift from the leaf, and then the butterfly drifts into the open air once more. Watching this can feel strangely calming. There is no rush in a butterfly's movements, no urgency in the way it explores the landscape. It simply moves from flower to flower, resting when it needs to, flying when warmth allows. In many ways, butterflies remind us of something easy to forget. Life does not always move quickly. Sometimes it unfolds through small, quiet motions. If you are listening while resting somewhere comfortable, you might imagine that same gentle rhythm settling around you now. Your breathing slowing, your thoughts drifting softly like wings moving through warm air. There is nothing you need to hold on to, nothing you need to remember. You can simply follow the quiet motion of these delicate creatures as they move through the living world. Because even the butterfly itself begins somewhere far quieter than the flight. Long before the wings shimmer in sunlight, before the colors unfold in the air, its story begins in a place almost too small to notice. A single leaf, a quiet moment in the stillness of a garden or meadow. And resting there, almost invisible against the surface of the plant, lies the tiny beginning of a butterfly's life. The story of wings, it turns out, begins not in the air at all, but in the hidden stillness of an egg waiting patiently on a leaf. Somewhere in a quiet garden, where sunlight filters gently through leaves, a butterfly settles for a moment on a plant. The air is warm, the world is still. From a distance, it may look like nothing more than a brief pause in flight, a delicate insect resting after drifting through the open air. But something important is happening in this quiet moment. And the butterfly is choosing a place where a new life will begin. You might imagine her moving slowly from leaf to leaf, pausing here, then drifting away again. This careful wandering is not random. Butterflies are surprisingly selective when it comes to where they place their eggs. The choice of plant matters deeply because the tiny creature that will soon emerge will depend entirely on that plant for its first meals. Butterflies have a remarkable way of sensing whether a plant is suitable. Their feet contain sensitive receptors that can taste chemical signals on the surface of leaves. When a butterfly touches down, she is quietly testing the plant, gathering information through those delicate sensors. If the chemistry is right, if the plant belongs to the species her young will be able to eat, she may remain for a moment longer. Then, gently and almost invisibly, she places an egg. Butterfly eggs are astonishingly small. Many are about the size of a grain of sand. Some are round like tiny pearls, while others carry delicate ridges or shapes that resemble miniature sculptures under a microscope. Though they appear simple, each egg contains a complex living blueprint. Inside that tiny shell is a developing embryo, the earliest stage of a butterfly's life. Everything that will eventually become wings, antennae, legs, and eyes begins as a cluster of microscopic cells quietly dividing and growing. The outer shell of the egg provides protection during this delicate time. It is firm enough to shield the developing life within, yet thin enough to allow the exchange of gases with the surrounding air. Across its surface are microscopic openings that allow oxygen to enter and carbon dioxide to leave. Even at this tiny scale, the processes of life are already unfolding with careful precision. The egg is often attached securely to the leaf. Some butterflies place their eggs singly, spacing them out across different plants. Others gather them in small clusters. The strategy depends on the species and the environment where they live. Placing eggs on the correct plant is essential because the tiny caterpillar that will soon emerge does not travel far in its earliest hours of life. Its first meal must be very close. In many cases, the very leaf that holds the egg will become that first meal. While the egg rests there, life inside continues to develop quietly. Within the shell, the embryo gradually takes shape. Cells organize themselves into the earliest forms of tissues and structures. The future caterpillar slowly forms, curled gently within the tiny chamber. From the outside, the egg remains almost perfectly still. Days pass. Sunlight warms the leaf during the day. Cool air settles around it at night. Rain may fall softly, or a breeze may ripple through the surrounding plants. Yet the egg holds steady through these small changes in weather. Some butterfly eggs are covered with subtle textures or ridges that help them stay attached to the surface of the leaf. Others carry colors that blend quietly into the plant around them. These gentle forms of camouflage can make the eggs difficult for predators to notice. Because the natural world is full of creatures that search constantly for food. Tiny wasps, ants, and other insects may wander across leaves, always exploring. A butterfly egg is small, but it is also rich with nutrients, and many animals would happily eat it if they found it. So the egg remains quiet and hidden. Its color may match the pale green of a leaf, or the soft cream color of a stem. Sometimes it resembles a tiny drop of dew or a speck of pollen. Nature often favors subtlety. As the embryo continues developing inside, the time for hatching slowly approaches. The tiny caterpillar within the egg is preparing for its first moment in the outside world. Though it has never seen the sun or felt the wind, its body is already forming the structures it will need to survive. Eventually, the small caterpillar inside begins to move. Using tiny mouth parts, it gently breaks through the shell that has protected it. The opening is small at first, just enough for the delicate head to emerge. Gradually, the rest of the body follows, unfolding into the open air. For the first time, the young caterpillar touches the surface of the leaf. Its body is soft and small, often no longer than a few millimeters. Now, the world around it must seem enormous. Yet the caterpillar does not hesitate for long. Almost immediately, it begins to eat. Its first meal is often the shell of the egg it has just emerged from. This may seem surprising, but the shell contains nutrients that help the young caterpillar gain energy for the journey ahead. Once that small meal is finished, the caterpillar begins feeding on the leaf beneath it. This moment marks the beginning of a new stage of life, one that will involve steady growth and quiet transformation. But that transformation begins with this tiny beginning. A butterfly egg resting on a leaf may appear almost invisible in the vastness of a meadow or forest. It may go unnoticed by nearly every passing creature. Yet inside that tiny shell, a remarkable process has already unfolded. The entire future life of the butterfly has begun there, in stillness and patience. If you imagine this moment now, you may picture that small leaf resting in warm evening light. The air is calm, the world is quiet. Somewhere on that leaf sits a tiny egg, holding within it the promise of wings that have not yet opened. It is a reminder that many of nature's most extraordinary stories begin in silence. You don't need to keep track of every detail of that story tonight. You can simply let the image drift gently through your thoughts. A leaf, a tiny egg, a quiet beginning. Because once that small shell opens, the delicate life inside begins a period of remarkable growth. The stillness of the egg gives way to a creature whose only task is to eat, grow, and prepare for a transformation that will eventually carry it into the sky. And so, our gentle journey moves onward toward that small, hungry creature resting on the leaf, beginning the slow and steady life of a caterpillar. Morning light settles softly across a quiet leaf, and resting upon its surface is a creature so small that it may escape notice entirely. The tiny caterpillar has only just entered the world, emerging from the delicate shell that held its earliest beginning. Its body is soft, pale, and flexible, with faint segments that allow it to bend and move with slow determination. At this moment, the caterpillar's life is simple. It does not search the sky or wander far across the landscape. Instead, it focuses on a single quiet task. It eats. The leaf beneath its tiny body becomes its first world, both shelter and food at the same time. With gentle mouthparts shaped for chewing, the caterpillar begins to take small bites from the surface of the leaf. Each bite removes only a thin layer of plant tissue, but the process continues steadily. The rhythm is patient and calm. Eat, pause, move a little, eat again. This steady feeding is not simply hunger, it is preparation. A caterpillar must grow rapidly in a very short period of time. Within its small body, complex changes are already unfolding. The caterpillar carries within it the biological instructions for an entirely different form of life that will come later. But before that transformation can happen, the caterpillar must gather energy. Leaves provide the fuel for this remarkable stage. They contain sugars, water, and nutrients that help build the tissues of the growing insect. Many caterpillars are surprisingly selective about the plants they eat. The butterfly that placed the egg chose a plant species carefully, ensuring that the emerging caterpillar would find food it can safely digest. Some caterpillars rely on only a single type of plant. Others accept a small group of related species. Their digestive systems are adapted to process the chemicals within those leaves, even when those chemicals might discourage other animals from eating the plant. As the caterpillar continues feeding, its body begins to expand. The segments stretch gently, and the tiny legs grip the leaf with quiet determination. If you watch closely, you might notice the caterpillar's unique way of moving. Along its body are several pairs of soft gripping structures called prolegs. These flexible appendages work together with the front legs to pull the body forward in a slow looping motion. The movement is simple but effective. Grip, stretch, pull forward, and settle again. This quiet motion allows the caterpillar to explore nearby parts of the plant, always searching for fresh leaves to eat. As days pass, the caterpillar grows quickly. In fact, the increase in size can be astonishing when compared to its tiny beginning. Yet there is a small challenge hidden within this growth. The caterpillar's outer covering, called the exoskeleton, does not stretch forever. It provides protection and structure, but eventually it becomes too tight for the expanding body inside. When this happens, the caterpillar enters a moment of stillness. Its body prepares for a process known as molting. During this time, the caterpillar gently sheds its old outer layer. A new, slightly larger covering has already formed beneath it. The old skin splits open, and the caterpillar slowly emerges from it, soft and newly expanded. For a short while after this change, the caterpillar remains quiet as the new outer layer firms up and settles into place. Then the steady rhythm begins again. Eating, growing, exploring the leaves nearby. Each time the caterpillar sheds its skin, it enters a slightly larger stage of life. Scientists sometimes refer to these stages as instars, but you can simply imagine them as moments of renewal, small steps in the long preparation for transformation. With each new stage, the caterpillar's body becomes stronger and more developed. Its digestive system grows more efficient, allowing it to process leaves quickly. Tiny muscles strengthen within its segmented body, helping it move more confidently across the plant. Meanwhile, something extraordinary is happening inside. Hidden deep within the caterpillar's tissues are small groups of cells that will eventually become parts of the adult butterfly. These cells remain mostly inactive during the feeding stage, quietly waiting for the right moment later in life. You might think of them as a blueprint tucked gently away. For now, the caterpillar's task is simply to gather energy. This stage of life may appear peaceful, even simple, yet it represents one of the most intense periods of growth in the insect world. Some caterpillars increase their body mass many times over during this feeding period. The leaves they consume become the building material for the transformation still to come. As the caterpillar grows, it may change in appearance as well. Colors deepen, patterns become more visible. Some species develop tiny hairs or subtle markings that help them blend into the surrounding leaves. These features serve a quiet purpose. The natural world contains many creatures that search constantly for food. Birds, spiders, and other insects may all notice a caterpillar if it moves too boldly or stands out too clearly against the plant. Camouflage offers protection. A caterpillar that blends into the colors and shapes of the leaves becomes much harder to see. Some caterpillars even resemble small twigs or curled leaf edges, allowing them to rest quietly without drawing attention. If you imagine watching a caterpillar during this time, the scene feels calm and unhurried. A leaf sways gently in the breeze. The caterpillar pauses between bites, lifting its head slightly before returning to its steady meal. There is no rush in this moment. Nature allows growth to unfold at its own quiet pace. And as you listen, you might feel that same calm rhythm settling around you. There is nothing you need to hurry tonight, no task waiting for you. Just the quiet movement of thoughts drifting slowly, like a caterpillar moving across a leaf. Over time, something begins to change. The caterpillar grows larger and fuller. Its feeding slows slightly. The once constant hunger becomes more measured. Inside its body, the signals that guide its development begin shifting toward the next stage of life. The caterpillar starts to wander a little farther from the leaves it once fed upon. It searches for a place that feels safe and sheltered. Because the long season of feeding and growing is gently coming to an end. And soon, the caterpillar will prepare for the most mysterious moment of its life. A moment when the active movement of crawling and eating will give way to stillness once again. In that stillness, hidden inside a delicate protective case, the body of the caterpillar will begin to reorganize itself in one of the most remarkable transformations in the natural world. The quiet eater of leaves will rest, and from that resting place, something with wings will eventually emerge. After many quiet days of feeding among leaves, something subtle begins to change within the caterpillar's small body. The constant rhythm of eating slows. The restless movement across the plant becomes more thoughtful, almost as if the caterpillar is searching for something it cannot quite see. You might imagine watching it now as it leaves the leaf it once fed upon so eagerly. It crawls slowly along a stem, then pauses beneath a branch or along the underside of a leaf where shadows rest softly. The caterpillar is looking for a safe place, not a place to eat, but a place to become still. Eventually, it finds a spot that feels secure, sheltered from wind and wandering predators. Here, the caterpillar anchors itself carefully. With tiny threads of silk produced from glands near its mouth, it creates a small attachment point on the surface beneath it. These silk threads act like quiet anchors, holding the caterpillar in place as it prepares for one of the most extraordinary transformations in the natural world. Once secured, the caterpillar's body bends into a gentle curve, often forming a shape that resembles the letter J. In this position, it hangs quietly, motionless for long stretches of time. From the outside, very little seems to happen. But inside, a remarkable biological process is beginning. The caterpillar's outer skin, which has already been shed several times during its growth, prepares to split one final time. Slowly, carefully, the skin loosens along the back. Beneath it, a new structure is already waiting. As the old skin slides away, it reveals the chrysalis. The chrysalis is not simply a shell. It is a protective structure formed from the caterpillar's own tissues, a smooth outer casing that surrounds the developing insect within. Its surface may appear soft green, pale brown, or even faintly golden depending on the species. Some resemble small leaves or dried twigs, blending quietly into the surroundings. This subtle disguise helps protect the chrysalis during the stillness that follows. Because once the chrysalis has formed, movement almost completely stops. The caterpillar that once crawled and fed is no longer visible. Inside the chrysalis, its body begins a transformation so complex that scientists have studied it for generations. You might imagine that the caterpillar simply rearranges itself like a puzzle, shifting pieces into a new picture. But the reality is far more remarkable. Within the chrysalis, many of the caterpillar's tissues begin to break down. Specialized cells release enzymes that dissolve parts of the body, turning solid structures into a rich mixture of biological material. It may sound dramatic, yet this process is natural and carefully controlled. The caterpillar's body does not disappear into chaos. Instead, the dissolved materials become the building blocks for the next stage of life. Hidden within the caterpillar since its earliest days are clusters of cells, sometimes called imaginal discs. These tiny structures have remained mostly inactive while the caterpillar fed and grew. Now they awaken. Each cluster carries instructions for forming a different part of the butterfly's body. One group will shape the wings, another will develop into antennae, others will form legs, eyes, and the long feeding tube known as the proboscis. Using the nutrients stored within the dissolving tissues, these cells begin to multiply and organize themselves into new forms. Slowly, the architecture of the butterfly takes shape. Wings begin as delicate folds of tissue that expand gradually within the protective casing of the chrysalis. Antennae extend like fine threads, forming the sensitive structures that will one day guide the butterfly through the air. Even the butterfly's compound eyes begin developing, assembling thousands of tiny visual units that will later capture the patterns of flowers and sunlight. All of this happens quietly within the stillness of the chrysalis. From the outside, our days pass with very little visible change. The chrysalis hangs motionless, perhaps swaying gently if a breeze passes through the surrounding leaves. Rain may fall, sunlight may warm the surface during the day and fade into cool evening air. Yet inside, the transformation continues steadily. The developing butterfly reorganizes its internal systems as well. The digestive system shifts to prepare for a new diet based largely on nectar rather than leaves, as muscles that once supported crawling are reshaped to control the movement of wings. Even the nervous system adjusts, building new connections that will guide flight, navigation, and the delicate coordination required for landing on flowers. This quiet reconstruction can take many days depending on the species and the surrounding temperature. Warmer conditions often speed the process slightly, while cooler weather may slow it down. But the rhythm remains gentle and patient. Nothing in this transformation is rushed. If you imagine the chrysalis now, hanging quietly beneath a leaf or along a branch, you might notice how peaceful it appears. It does not look like a place of great activity. It simply rests there, still and silent. And yet, within that stillness, a complete reorganization of life is taking place. Nature often hides its most remarkable changes inside quiet spaces. You might feel something similar as you listen tonight. Your own body settling more comfortably, your breathing growing slower, thoughts drifting gently past like clouds moving across a quiet sky. There is nothing you need to do, no effort required, just the quiet unfolding of the story. As the days pass, the butterfly inside the chrysalis becomes more fully formed. Wings fold carefully along its sides, legs draw close to the body, antennae curve gently forward. The outer surface of the chrysalis may begin to change as well. In some species, the casing grows slightly darker or more translucent near the end of this stage. Through the thin surface, faint patterns of the butterfly's wings may become visible, a hint of color, a soft shadow of the life waiting inside. The transformation is almost complete. Soon the stillness that has surrounded the chrysalis will give way to movement once again. But that moment does not arrive suddenly. Nature allows the butterfly time to finish forming its delicate structures, ensuring that every wing vein, muscle fiber, and sensory organ is ready for the world beyond the chrysalis. Until then, the small structure continues to hang quietly in the natural world. A simple shape resting among leaves. A silent chamber where the gentle eater of leaves has become something entirely different. And before long, the casing that once protected this hidden transformation will open, allowing the newly formed butterfly to meet the sunlight for the very first time. A morning arrives quietly in the meadow. The air carries a cool softness left behind by the night, and the first sunlight begins to move slowly across the leaves. Somewhere among the stems and branches, a small chrysalis hangs almost unnoticed, just as it has for many peaceful days. From the outside, it appears perfectly still. But inside, the quiet transformation has reached its final moments. Within the thin protective casing, a fully formed butterfly rests, folded carefully into a space that once held a crawling caterpillar. Its wings are pressed close to its body, soft and compact, waiting for the moment when the outside world will return. That moment begins with the smallest movement. The casing that has held the butterfly begins to loosen along a fine seam. Slowly, almost gently, it begins to split. The butterfly inside pushes forward with careful pressure, using its legs to widen the opening. The change is not sudden. It unfolds gradually, like the slow opening of a flower in early light. A slender head emerges first, followed by folded wings that appear almost impossibly small for the creature they belong to. The butterfly works patiently, pulling itself free from the chrysalis with slow, deliberate effort. At last, it hangs beneath the empty casing, clinging quietly to the surface with its legs. If you were watching this moment in the calm of morning, you might feel a sense of stillness around it. The butterfly does not rush away. It does not attempt to fly. Instead, it remains hanging there. Its wings are soft, wrinkled and folded tightly along its sides. They look far too small to carry it through the air. But this is only the beginning of another gentle process. Inside the butterfly's body flows a clear fluid known as hemolymph. Slowly, the butterfly begins pumping this fluid into the thin veins of its wings. As the fluid spreads outward, the wings begin to expand. What once looked crumpled now stretches gradually into shape. The delicate surfaces unfold wider and wider, revealing the colors and patterns that had been hidden within the chrysalis. Lines of veins spread through the wings like fine branches, supporting the thin membranes that will soon catch the air. This expansion takes time. The butterfly remains hanging quietly while the wings fill and stretch. The warmth of sunlight plays an important role here. Gentle heat helps the wings dry and firm as the fluid settles into place. During this time, the butterfly's body is surprisingly vulnerable. The wings are soft and fragile, unable to support flight. Even a strong breeze could cause damage if the butterfly moved too soon. So, it waits. Nature allows the process to unfold slowly. Minutes pass, sometimes longer. Gradually, the wings reach their full size. Their surfaces begin to stiffen slightly as they dry. The colors deepen under the sunlight, revealing the intricate patterns that make each species unique. If you look closely, you might notice tiny scales covering the wings, arranged in overlapping layers. These scales create the colors and patterns that butterflies are known for, reflecting light in subtle ways. Some butterflies display bright colors meant to stand out in the world around them. Others carry soft browns, oranges, or greens that help them blend quietly into leaves and bark. Each pattern tells a quiet story about survival. Yet even as the wings grow stronger, the butterfly does not immediately take flight. It begins by testing small movements, a gentle opening, a careful closing. The wings rise and fall in slow practice motions, allowing the butterfly to sense the strength of its muscles. These muscles, located within the thorax, must now coordinate perfectly with the wings. Flight requires balance, timing, and control. The butterfly practices these small movements until the wings respond smoothly. You might imagine standing nearby in that calm meadow, watching this delicate rehearsal unfold. There is no urgency here, only patience. Eventually, the butterfly shifts its body slightly, adjusting its grip on the surface beneath it. The wings open once more, stretching fully into the morning air. This time, the motion carries a hint of readiness. With a light push from its legs, and the butterfly lifts gently into the air. The first flight is rarely dramatic. It may rise only a short distance before settling again on a nearby leaf or flower. The wings move slowly, finding their rhythm. Flight is something the butterfly seems to discover gradually. The air itself becomes a partner in this movement. Small currents lift the wings, while gravity gently draws them downward. The butterfly learns to balance between these forces with each quiet motion. Soon, the wings begin to move with greater confidence, upward, downward, drifting forward through the warm sunlight. The butterfly's world has expanded suddenly. Only hours ago, it rested within the small space of a chrysalis. Now the open sky surrounds it. Flowers appear like bright resting places scattered across the landscape. Leaves sway gently in the breeze. Light reflects from the surfaces of petals and stems. The butterfly begins to explore. One of its first tasks is to find nourishment. During the caterpillar stage, leaves provided all the energy needed for growth. But the adult butterfly feeds differently. It carries a long, flexible feeding tube called a proboscis. When not in use, this tube remains coiled neatly beneath the head, like a tiny spring. When the butterfly lands on a flower, the proboscis unrolls and extends downward into the center of the bloom. There, it reaches the nectar stored within. Nectar is a sweet liquid produced by flowers to attract pollinators. For butterflies, it provides a rich source of energy that supports flight and daily activity. As the butterfly drinks, grains of pollen may brush against its body. When it moves to the next flower, some of that pollen may be carried along, helping plants reproduce. This quiet partnership between butterflies and flowers has existed for millions of years. Neither the butterfly nor the flower plans it. Yet together, they help shape the living landscape around them. As the butterfly continues its gentle exploration, the rhythm of its wings becomes steady and graceful. The once fragile surfaces are now strong enough to support longer flights. Still, the butterfly's movements remain calm and drifting. It does not rush across the sky. Instead, it follows the warmth of sunlight and the scent of flowers carried through the air. If you imagine this moment now, you may feel a sense of peace in it. A butterfly moving softly through a meadow. The world open and quiet around it. Your own breathing slow and steady as you listen. There is nothing you need to hold on to tonight. No effort required. Just the quiet unfolding of a life that began as something almost invisible on a leaf. The butterfly's first flight is not the end of its journey. It is the beginning of a new stage of exploration. The wings that have just learned to move through the air will soon guide it through fields, gardens, and forests. And as it travels, the butterfly will rely on delicate structures hidden within those wings to sense the air, navigate the landscape, and balance within the open sky. The story of those wings, their colors, textures, and hidden designs, holds another quiet layer of wonder waiting to be discovered. If you watch a butterfly resting on a flower, one of the first things you may notice is the quiet beauty of its wings. They open slowly, like small painted doors revealing patterns of color that seem almost too delicate to belong to the natural world. Blues shimmer in the sunlight. Oranges glow softly against green leaves. Pale yellows catch the warmth of the morning. At first glance, these wings appear smooth, like thin pieces of colored paper. But if you were able to look closer than the eye can normally see, you would discover that the surface is not smooth at all. Instead, the wings are covered with thousands upon thousands of tiny overlapping scales. Each scale is shaped like a minute tile, arranged in layers that resemble the shingles on a roof. These scales are so small that dozens of them could fit across the width of a single grain of sand. Yet together, they create the broad surfaces that allow butterflies to glide through the air. The scales serve several quiet purposes at once. Some contain pigments, with the same kind of chemical coloring found in plants and other living things. These pigments absorb certain wavelengths of light while reflecting others, creating colors like yellow, brown, or orange. But many of the most brilliant butterfly colors come from something even more subtle. Some scales produce color through structure rather than pigment. Their surfaces contain microscopic ridges and grooves that interact with light in delicate ways. When sunlight strikes these structures, it scatters and reflects in patterns that create shimmering blues, greens, and purples. This phenomenon is sometimes called structural coloration. Instead of paint or dye, the color arises from the physical shape of the scales themselves. That is why some butterfly wings appear to change color slightly as the viewing angle shifts. The light reflects differently depending on how it meets those tiny structures. What seems like magic is actually the quiet physics of light moving across microscopic landscapes. The scales also play a role in temperature and protection. Butterfly wings are thin and delicate, and the scales help shield the underlying membrane from moisture and dust. They can even influence how the wings absorb or reflect sunlight, helping butterflies regulate their body temperature. If you imagine touching a butterfly's wing gently, though of course it is best to admire them without contact, you might notice that the scales detach easily. The fine powder sometimes left behind on a fingertip is made from these tiny scales. While losing some scales does not necessarily harm the butterfly immediately, the wings function best when their surfaces remain intact. The scales maintain the aerodynamic balance and insulation that the butterfly relies upon. Beneath the scales lies the wing membrane itself. This membrane is thin, flexible, and supported by a network of delicate veins. These veins carry hemolymph, the fluid that moves through the insect's body, as well as oxygen and nutrients to the wing tissues. But the veins do more than transport fluids. They also strengthen the wings, much like the ribs of an umbrella support its fabric. Without these veins, the wings would collapse during flight. The pattern of veins varies among butterfly species, forming subtle differences in shape and strength. Scientists often study these patterns to help identify species and understand their evolutionary relationships. When a butterfly flies, the wings do not simply flap up and down. The motion is far more graceful and complex. Each wing beat pushes air downward and backward, creating lift that supports the butterfly's weight. At the same time, the wings twist slightly with each movement, adjusting their angle to maintain balance in the air. The butterfly's thorax contains powerful flight muscles that control these motions. Though the butterfly appears fragile, these muscles work with remarkable coordination. Yet, butterflies are not built for long-distance speed, like some other flying insects. Instead, their wings allow for gentle, drifting flight. This drifting quality actually serves a purpose. The uneven, floating motion makes it harder for predators to predict the butterfly's path. Birds and other hunters often rely on quick, direct movement to capture prey. A butterfly's wandering flight pattern introduces a kind of graceful unpredictability. In addition to flight and color, butterfly wings also carry signals meant for communication. The patterns you see on a butterfly's wings often serve as visual messages to other animals. Bright colors may signal that the butterfly is toxic or unpleasant to eat. Some species feed on plants that contain defensive chemicals, storing those substances within their bodies. Predators that attempt to eat such butterflies may quickly learn to avoid those warning colors. Other butterflies mimic these patterns even if they are not toxic themselves. By resembling a species that predators already avoid, they gain a measure of protection. Nature often rewards good imitation. Some wings also contain eye-like markings known as eye spots. These circular patterns can startle or confuse predators, making it appear as though the butterfly is much larger than it really is. In certain species, the eye spots resemble the eyes of larger animals. When a butterfly suddenly spreads its wings, the unexpected display can cause a predator to hesitate just long enough for the butterfly to escape. Yet, not all butterfly wings are meant to stand out. Now, some species display bright colors when their wings are open. But when they fold their wings closed, the underside blends almost perfectly with bark, leaves, or stones. This camouflage allows them to rest quietly without attracting attention. The same wings that flash with color in flight can become nearly invisible when the butterfly settles. If you imagine a butterfly resting now, perhaps on a quiet leaf at the edge of a meadow, you might notice how still it appears. The wings fold together above its back, revealing a softer pattern that merges gently with the colors around it. The air moves slowly. Sunlight warms the delicate scales, and the butterfly waits. You might notice something calming about this small creature resting in the sunlight. Its wings, so intricate and carefully designed, move only when needed. There is no hurry. The butterfly opens them slowly, then closes them again, responding to the warmth of the day. As you listen tonight, you might feel that same calm rhythm settling around you, your breathing slowing, your body relaxing a little deeper into the quiet. There is nothing you need to do, no details you must remember, just the gentle image of wings catching the light. The more scientists study butterfly wings, the more they discover about the delicate balance between physics and biology that allows these creatures to move so gracefully through the air. Every scale, every vein, on every subtle pattern contributes to the butterfly's ability to survive and travel through its world. And travel it does, because many butterflies do far more than drift quietly among flowers. Some of them move across landscapes in journeys that stretch far beyond a single meadow. Their wings, light as they appear, can carry them across forests, valleys, and even entire continents. Which raises a quiet and fascinating question. How does a creature so small know where it is going when the world around it is so vast? If you watch a butterfly for a few quiet moments, its path through the air may appear almost random. It drifts left, then right, rising slightly before dipping again toward a flower. The motion feels playful, even unpredictable, as though the butterfly is simply following the breeze wherever it happens to go. Yet beneath that wandering pattern lies a quiet sense of direction. Like butterflies do not move through the world without awareness. Even with their tiny bodies and delicate wings, they possess subtle ways of understanding the landscape around them. Their journeys may seem gentle and drifting, but they are guided by signals carried through light, scent, and even the position of the sun. You might imagine a butterfly lifting from a flower in a sunlit meadow. The air is warm and the sky stretches wide above the fields. As the butterfly begins to move, its compound eyes gather a broad view of the surroundings. Each eye is made of thousands of tiny lenses, forming a mosaic of the world around it. Together, these lenses create a wide field of vision, allowing the butterfly to notice movement and patterns across a large area. This wide awareness helps the butterfly navigate among flowers and avoid sudden danger. But vision is only part of the story. The butterfly's antennae extend forward like delicate instruments, sensing the invisible currents of the air. These slender structures are highly sensitive to scent. They detect faint chemical traces carried by the wind, guiding the butterfly toward nectar-rich flowers or toward other butterflies of its own species. Even the direction of airflow provides subtle information. Air currents carry scents across the landscape, and butterflies often move gently upwind toward those signals. The invisible pathways of scent become quiet maps that guide their movement from place to place. But for some butterflies, the landscape they travel is much larger than a single meadow. Certain species undertake migrations that stretch across hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. These journeys unfold gradually, often over several generations, linking distant regions through the movement of delicate wings. One of the most well-known examples involves butterflies that travel from cooler northern regions toward warmer southern landscapes as seasons begin to change. Their flight follows broad corridors shaped by temperature, sunlight, and the availability of food. You might imagine these butterflies rising slowly into the air during early autumn days. The sunlight grows softer, the air slightly cooler. Something within their biology signals that it is time to move. Though their brains are small, butterflies possess internal systems that respond to seasonal cues. Changes in day length, temperature, and food availability help trigger the behaviors associated with migration. The direction of travel often aligns with the position of the sun in the sky. Butterflies are able to use sunlight as a form of compass. Their visual systems can detect the sun's location, even when it is partially hidden behind clouds. Inside their bodies, the internal clocks help adjust their sense of direction as the sun moves across the sky throughout the day. This combination of sunlight and internal timing allows the butterfly to maintain a consistent direction over long distances. It is a quiet and elegant form of navigation. The butterfly does not carry maps or memories of distant lands. Instead, its body contains biological rhythms that guide it gently forward. Sometimes butterflies travel alone, drifting along warm air currents that help conserve energy. At other times, large groups may gather together, filling the air with slow waves of movement. During migration, butterflies often rest along the way. They pause on branches, leaves, or tall grasses to feed and regain strength before continuing their journey. These pauses are essential. A butterfly's energy comes primarily from the nectar it drinks from flowers. Without frequent feeding, the long journey would become impossible. Even the wind plays a role in guiding their movement. Warm air rising from the ground can lift butterflies gently upward, allowing them to glide for short distances without constant wing movement. In this way, they travel efficiently, letting the atmosphere assist their flight. The wings themselves help maintain balance and direction during these longer movements. Subtle adjustments in angle allow the butterfly to steer through shifting air currents. From a distance, the butterfly still appears to drift casually through the sky. But hidden within that gentle motion is a remarkable balance of sensory awareness, biological timing, and environmental guidance. For the butterfly, the landscape becomes a network of signals. Sunlight marks the direction. Scents trace the location of flowers. Air currents carry subtle hints about the terrain ahead. Together, these signals create a living map that the butterfly follows without conscious thought. You might imagine standing quietly beneath an open sky as a butterfly passes overhead. Its wings move with slow grace, rising and falling like small breaths in the air. It may travel only a few meters before settling again on a flower. Or perhaps it continues onward, following a direction shaped by sunlight and instinct. There is something deeply calming in that quiet determination, a small creature moving across wide landscapes with patience and steady rhythm. As you listen, you might feel a similar sense of calm settling around you now. Your breathing moving gently in and out. Your thoughts drifting lightly like wings moving through warm air. There is nothing you need to plan, nothing you need to navigate. The world can move quietly around you tonight. Meanwhile, somewhere beyond the stillness of this moment, butterflies continue their journeys across fields and forests. Some will remain within the small territories where they first emerged. Others will travel far beyond those familiar places, guided by sunlight and seasonal rhythms. And along the way, their journeys will bring them into constant contact with the flowers that sustain them. Because wherever butterflies travel, they rarely move far without seeking the gentle sweetness hidden within blossoms. And that quiet relationship between butterflies and flowers holds another peaceful story waiting to unfold. If you imagine a quiet meadow under warm afternoon light, you might notice how flowers seem to welcome the presence of butterflies. Petals open gently toward the sun. Soft colors spread across the field. And drifting from bloom to bloom, butterflies move through the landscape like living brushstrokes of color. This quiet partnership between butterflies and flowers is not an accident. It is a relationship that has grown slowly over millions of years, shaped by the shared needs of plants and the insects that visit them. Flowers produce nectar, a sweet liquid rich in energy. For butterflies, nectar is one of the most important sources of nourishment during their adult lives. Unlike their earlier stage as caterpillars, which feed on leaves, butterflies rely mainly on this delicate sweetness to fuel their flight. When a butterfly approaches a flower, it does so with careful attention. Its compound eyes detect the colors and shapes of petals. Many butterflies can see ultraviolet patterns that human eyes cannot perceive. To us, a flower may appear simply yellow or white. But to a butterfly, the same flower may display glowing pathways that lead directly to the nectar hidden inside. These patterns act like quiet landing guides. As the butterfly settles onto the flower, its legs grip the petals lightly. Its wings may open and close slowly, balancing its body in the gentle movement of air. Then something subtle happens beneath the butterfly's head. The butterfly carries a long feeding structure called a proboscis. When not in use, this organ remains curled tightly beneath the head like a delicate spring. But when the butterfly prepares to feed, the proboscis uncoils. It extends slowly, becoming a thin, flexible tube. This tube reaches into the center of the flower, where nectar is stored deep within the blossom. The butterfly does not chew or bite the flower. Instead, it drinks. The nectar travels up through the proboscis, much like liquid rising through a straw. Tiny muscles help draw the sweet fluid upward, allowing the butterfly to gather energy for its next flight. This feeding process may last only a few moments. But during that brief time, something else is quietly taking place. Flowers rely on pollen to reproduce. Pollen carries the genetic material needed for plants to create seeds. Yet pollen cannot move easily from one flower to another without assistance. This is where butterflies become unexpected helpers. As the butterfly feeds, its body may brush gently against the flower's reproductive structures. Grains of pollen cling to the tiny scales and hairs that cover the butterfly's body. When the butterfly lifts away and drifts toward another flower, some of that pollen may be transferred to the next bloom. This process is known as pollination. Without realizing it, the butterfly helps the plant complete its reproductive cycle. In return, the plant provides nectar as nourishment. It is a quiet exchange that benefits both participants. Across fields, forests, and gardens, this delicate partnership continues every day. Butterflies visit countless flowers as they move through their environment, spreading pollen from one bloom to another. The shapes of many flowers have even evolved to match the feeding style of butterflies. Some blossoms form narrow tubes that hold nectar deep inside. Only insects with long feeding structures, like butterflies and certain moths, can reach the nectar stored there. This arrangement helps ensure that the visiting insect brushes against the flower's pollen while feeding. Other flowers offer wide, open landing platforms where butterflies can rest comfortably while drinking nectar. Their petals form soft stages where wings can settle gently in the sunlight. The colors of these flowers often include bright pinks, purples, oranges, and reds. These shades are particularly visible to butterflies, helping them locate nectar sources from a distance. Scents also play an important role. Many flowers release subtle fragrances that drift through the air, carried by warm breezes. The butterfly's antennae are sensitive to these chemical signals, allowing it to detect nectar-bearing flowers even before they come into view. In this way, butterflies navigate a landscape shaped not only by sight, but also by invisible clouds of scent. If you imagine walking slowly through a meadow now, and you might notice how many butterflies pause frequently while traveling. They rarely fly for long stretches without stopping. Each flower offers a moment of rest, a sip of nectar, and an opportunity to gather energy. During these quiet pauses, the butterfly's wings may rise and fall slowly in the warmth of the sun. The sunlight warms the muscles inside the thorax, helping maintain the strength needed for flight. Butterflies are creatures that depend deeply on warmth and light. Their bodies cannot generate heat internally the way birds or mammals can. Instead, they borrow warmth from the environment. That is why butterflies often feed during the warmest parts of the day, when sunlight fills the air and flowers are fully open. Even the timing of nectar production is often synchronized with the activity of pollinators. Some flowers release their richest nectar during daylight hours when butterflies are most active. In this quiet way, the rhythms of plants and insects begin to align. If you pause to consider it, the meadow becomes a kind of conversation. Flowers offering sweetness, butterflies responding with movement, pollen traveling quietly between blooms. All of it unfolding without sound, guided only by scent, color, and instinct. As you listen tonight, you might picture this gentle exchange taking place somewhere beneath a warm sky. A butterfly settles on a flower. Its proboscis uncoils slowly, reaching into the center of the blossom. The wings remain open for a moment, catching the sunlight. Then the butterfly lifts again, drifting softly towards the next bloom. There is something peaceful about the rhythm of this movement, a quiet balance between effort and rest, flight and stillness. You may notice your own breathing following a similar rhythm now, slow and steady. Nothing you need to control, nothing you need to hold on to. just the gentle flow of a story moving through the night. Butterflies continue their quiet work among flowers across the world, helping shape the landscapes where they live. Yet even within this peaceful relationship, the natural world contains challenges. Not every creature that notices a butterfly is simply admiring its beauty. Many animals rely on insects for food, and butterflies must find ways to survive in a world where they are often noticed. So beyond the flowers and sunlight, butterflies carry another set of remarkable strategies hidden within their wings and colors. And those quiet defenses reveal yet another layer of their delicate story. If you imagine a quiet meadow again, where butterflies drift among flowers and warm sunlight fills the air, it might seem like a peaceful world. Petals sway gently in the breeze. The hum of distant insects moves softly across the field. A butterfly glides from bloom to bloom, unhurried and graceful. Yet within this calm landscape, many eyes are watching. Birds perch on branches, observing movement below. Spiders rest patiently within delicate webs stretched between stems. Even small lizards or insects move quietly through the grass, always searching for their next meal. For creatures as delicate as butterflies, survival requires more than beauty. It requires subtlety. Butterflies do not rely on speed alone to escape danger. Their flight may appear light and drifting, but it is rarely fast enough to outrun a determined predator. Instead, butterflies depend on a collection of quiet strategies that help them remain unnoticed or unappealing. One of the most gentle of these strategies is camouflage. Many butterflies possess wing patterns that blend almost perfectly into the environment around them. When their wings are closed, the bright colors often disappear, replaced by soft browns, grays, or leaf-like patterns. To a passing bird, a resting butterfly may appear no different from a dry leaf clinging to a branch. Some species even display patterns that resemble the veins of leaves or the texture of tree bark. The shapes along the wing edges can look slightly torn or irregular, just like natural plant material. When the butterfly remains still, these details allow it to vanish into the background. Stillness itself becomes part of the defense. A butterfly that holds its wings closed and remains motionless is far less likely to be noticed. Many predators rely on movement to detect their prey. Without motion to attract attention, the butterfly becomes part of the quiet scenery. Yet camouflage is not the only strategy butterflies use. Some species take a very different approach. Instead of hiding, they announce themselves boldly through bright colors. You may have seen butterflies with wings glowing in shades of orange, red, or deep black, marked with striking patterns. These colors are not meant to blend into the background. They are meant to be seen. In many cases, these butterflies carry chemical defenses within their bodies. During their earlier life as caterpillars, they feed on plants that contain natural toxins. Over time, the chemicals from those plants become stored within their tissues. When a predator attempts to eat such a butterfly, the experience may taste bitter or unpleasant. After one encounter, many birds learn to recognize the bright colors that signal this defense. The butterfly's colors become a kind of warning, a message carried silently across the wings that says, in effect, "I am not a good meal." This strategy is known as warning coloration. It allows butterflies to move more openly through the landscape without relying entirely on camouflage. Yet nature often adds another layer of quiet complexity. Some butterflies that do not carry toxins still display patterns that resemble those of toxic species. By mimicking the appearance of butterflies that predators avoid, they gain protection through resemblance. A bird that has learned to avoid a certain color pattern may hesitate when it sees a similar butterfly, even if the second species carries no chemical defense at all. This form of imitation is known as mimicry. Through small changes in color and pattern over many generations, certain butterflies evolve wings that closely resemble those of their protected relatives. The resemblance can be remarkably precise. From a distance, even trained observers may struggle to tell the difference between the original species and its mimic. In this way, mimicry creates a shared language of color across the butterfly world. Predators respond not only to individual species, but to the broader signals carried by wing patterns. Butterflies also possess another subtle defense hidden within their wings. If you look closely at some species, you may notice circular markings known as eye spots. These markings resemble small eyes placed along the surface of the wings. When the butterfly is resting with its wings closed, these spots may remain hidden. But if the butterfly suddenly opens its wings in the presence of danger, the eye spots become visible all at once. To a predator, the sudden appearance of these shapes can create a moment of hesitation. The spots may resemble the eyes of a much larger animal, suggesting that the butterfly is not alone. Even a brief pause from a predator can give the butterfly time to escape. Sometimes the eye spots serve another purpose as well. If a predator strikes the wing instead of the body, the butterfly may lose only a small piece of its wing surface, while the vital parts of the body remain unharmed. Though the wing may become slightly damaged, the butterfly can often continue flying. In this way, the wings act as both signal and shield. The drifting pattern of butterfly flight also plays a role in avoiding predators. Rather than flying in straight lines, butterflies often move in irregular paths, rising and dipping through the air. This unpredictable motion makes it harder for predators to anticipate their direction. The butterfly may appear to wander casually through the sky, but the movement itself adds another layer of protection. Even the times of day when butterflies are active can influence their safety. Many species prefer bright daylight hours, when their colors are most visible, and when the warmth of sunlight supports their flight muscles. At night, butterflies typically rest quietly on leaves or branches, remaining still until morning returns. If you imagine a butterfly settling onto a leaf at dusk, its wings closing softly above its body, you might notice how quickly its bright colors fade into the dim light. The same wings that shimmer in the sun become gentle shadows in the evening air. Nature offers many small ways for delicate creatures to remain safe within a world full of movement and hunger. As you listen tonight, you might picture that quiet leaf again, where a butterfly rests peacefully beneath the soft glow of the fading sky. The meadow grows calm, the air cools slightly, and the butterfly remains still, its wings folded like a small secret held within the quiet landscape. There is something soothing in this balance. A creature so fragile finding ways to survive through subtle design, quiet color, and patient stillness. You may feel that same stillness settling around you now, your breathing soft, your body resting comfortably. There is nothing you need to guard against here, nothing watching, nothing waiting, just the gentle unfolding of another story carried quietly through the natural world. Because beyond the quiet struggle for survival, butterflies also take part in one of nature's most peaceful journeys. Long migrations that carry their fragile wings across vast distances of land and sky. Imagine standing quietly in an open field as the afternoon light softens toward evening. The air is calm and the landscape stretches gently toward distant trees and hills. Somewhere above the grasses, a butterfly drifts through the warm air. Then another appears, and another. At first, the movement seems ordinary, just the familiar wandering of butterflies moving among flowers. But if you watch long enough, you might notice something unusual. Many of them are traveling in the same direction. Slowly, steadily, almost as if they share a quiet purpose. Across different regions of the world, certain butterfly species take part in migrations that unfold across remarkable distances. These journeys are not loud or dramatic. They do not form sharp lines in the sky like flocks of birds. Instead, they happen gently, wave after wave of delicate wings, moving across landscapes over days, weeks, and sometimes generations. Migration begins when subtle changes in the environment reach the butterflies. The length of daylight begins to shift. Temperatures grow cooler or warmer depending on the season. Flowers bloom or fade across the landscape. Inside the bodies of butterflies, these environmental signals trigger biological responses. Their internal systems begin preparing for movement, adjusting behaviors that guide them toward new regions where food and warmth will continue to support life. You might imagine a butterfly lifting into the air during the early days of autumn. The sunlight feels softer than it did during summer. The breeze carries the scent of drying leaves. Something within the butterfly responds to these seasonal changes. Without maps or written directions, it begins to travel. The path of migration is often guided by the position of the sun in the sky. Butterflies possess visual systems that allow them to track sunlight even as it moves throughout the day. Inside their bodies, internal biological clocks help adjust their orientation as the sun shifts from morning to afternoon. This quiet partnership between sunlight and internal timing helps butterflies maintain a consistent direction. Even when clouds drift across the sky, many butterflies can still detect polarized light patterns that reveal the sun's position behind the clouds. These patterns act like invisible compass lines stretching across the sky. Some butterflies also appear to sense subtle features of the Earth's magnetic field. Though the details of this ability are still being studied, evidence suggests that magnetic cues may help guide their long journeys when sunlight alone is not enough. Together, these signals create a delicate navigation system built into the butterfly's biology. But migration is rarely the work of a single butterfly alone. In many species, the journey unfolds across multiple generations. The butterflies that begin the migration may not live long enough to reach the final destination. Instead, their offspring continue the journey, following the same direction carried within their instincts. You might picture the migration as a relay carried gently across time. One generation travels part of the distance, lays eggs, and then the next generation continues forward. The landscape slowly changes as the butterflies move. Fields give way to forests. Rivers wind quietly beneath them. Mountains rise in the distance. Yet the migration continues, guided by environmental signals and inherited rhythms. One of the most well-known migrations occurs among butterflies that travel across North America. These butterflies move gradually southward during the cooler months, eventually gathering in warmer regions where winter temperatures remain mild. When they arrive, something remarkable happens. Thousands upon thousands of butterflies settle together in dense clusters among the branches of certain trees. Their wings fold gently, forming living layers that cover the bark like delicate leaves. From a distance, the trees may appear almost golden with the quiet weight of resting butterflies. During this time, the butterflies enter a state of reduced activity. Their bodies slow down, conserving energy while the cooler season passes. The trees where they gather offer protection from wind and weather. The forest canopy helps maintain a stable microclimate where temperatures remain suitable for survival. As sunlight filters through the branches, the butterflies may open and close their wings slowly, absorbing warmth before settling again. When the seasons begin to shift once more, the migration continues. The returning journey unfolds gradually. New generations begin moving northward again as flowers bloom and temperatures rise across the landscape. Each generation continues the path without ever having traveled it before. It is a remarkable example of inherited navigation, where biological instincts guide movement across distances that seem almost impossible for such delicate creatures. Yet the butterflies do not travel continuously. Along the way, they pause often. They rest on leaves, branches, or flowers. They feed on nectar, gathering the energy needed to continue their slow progress. Warm air currents rising from the land sometimes lift them gently, allowing them to glide without constant wing beats. In this way, the atmosphere itself becomes a quiet partner in their journey. The wings that seem so fragile are surprisingly capable of carrying them across great distances when supported by wind and sunlight. If you imagine standing along one of these migration routes, you might see butterflies drifting steadily overhead throughout the day, not in a hurried rush, but in a calm, patient flow. The movement feels almost peaceful, thousands of wings moving through the open air. Each butterfly following signals carried through sunlight, scent, and instinct. As you listen tonight, you might picture that gentle migration unfolding across wide landscapes. Butterflies moving quietly across valleys and forests, their wings rising and falling like soft breaths in the sky. There is something deeply calming in the rhythm of such a journey. No sudden urgency, no sharp noise, just the steady continuation of life following the changing seasons. You may feel your own thoughts drifting gently along with them now. Your breathing slow, your body resting comfortably. There is nowhere you need to travel tonight, no direction you need to follow, or just the quiet movement of a story carried through warm air and soft light. And as the butterflies continue their journeys across the world, they remain connected to the rhythms of the seasons that guide them. Because every migration, no matter how long, is shaped by the slow turning of the earth and the changing patterns of warmth and light that arrive with each new season. If you watch a meadow closely over the course of a year, you may notice how quietly the presence of butterflies rises and fades with the seasons. In warm months, they drift easily between flowers, their wings catching the sunlight as if the air itself were carrying them. But as the days shorten and the air cools, their movements grow fewer. The landscape slowly becomes quieter. Butterflies live closely connected to the rhythm of the Earth's changing seasons. Unlike animals that can regulate their body temperature internally, butterflies depend heavily on warmth from their surroundings. Sunlight warms their wings and bodies, allowing the muscles that power flight to work properly. When temperatures fall too low, flight becomes difficult. For this reason, butterflies must adapt carefully as the year moves through cycles of warmth and cold. In spring, the world begins to soften again after the stillness of winter. Sunlight lingers longer in the sky, and new leaves unfold across trees and plants. Flowers begin opening across fields and gardens, offering nectar once more. This is often the season when many butterflies appear again. Some have survived the winter hidden in sheltered places, while others emerge from cocoons or chrysalises that rested quietly through the colder months. As temperatures rise, their wings slowly warm in the sunlight, preparing them for the first gentle flights of the new season. You might imagine a butterfly resting on a leaf in early spring. Its wings spread wide toward the sun, absorbing warmth from the air. The world around it is still quiet, but life is returning slowly. Soon the butterfly lifts into the air, beginning another cycle of feeding, flying, and reproduction. During the warmer months, butterflies are often at their most active. Flowers bloom widely across the landscape, providing abundant nectar for feeding. Caterpillars find fresh leaves on growing plants, allowing them to continue their remarkable stages of growth. The warmth of summer helps speed these biological processes. Eggs develop more quickly, caterpillars grow faster, and the transformation within the chrysalis progresses steadily. Sunlight and warmth create ideal conditions for the continuation of the butterfly life cycle. But as summer begins to soften toward autumn, subtle changes appear once again. The angle of the sun shifts slightly lower in the sky. Even during warm days, the evenings grow cooler. Plants begin adjusting their cycles and preparing for the quieter months ahead. Butterflies sense these changes through a combination of temperature, daylight length, and the availability of food. Different species respond in different ways. Some butterflies continue their lives only through the warm seasons. As autumn approaches, they lay eggs that will survive the coming winter. The adults themselves may not live through the colder months, but their offspring wait patiently for spring. The eggs remain attached to leaves, stems, or hidden surfaces where they are protected from harsh weather. Inside those tiny shells, life rests quietly until warmth returns. Other species pass the winter as caterpillars. These small creatures find shelter beneath bark, within leaf litter, or among the stems of plants. Their bodies enter a state of slowed activity, conserving energy while the cold season passes around them. Some caterpillars produce substances within their bodies that help protect their cells from freezing temperatures. But it is a gentle form of adaptation, allowing life to endure even when the environment grows harsh. Still, other butterflies survive the winter as chrysalises. The chrysalis hangs quietly through storms, snow, and wind, holding within it the delicate transformation waiting for spring. From the outside, it may look like nothing more than a dry leaf or small twig attached to a branch. Yet inside, the butterfly waits patiently for warmer days. A few butterfly species take yet another approach. Instead of surviving winter in a dormant state, they migrate to warmer regions where flowers remain available throughout the year. When conditions become favorable again, their descendants gradually return northward with the shifting seasons. In this way, butterflies remain connected to warmth and flowering plants, even if it means traveling across long distances. For those butterflies that remain in colder regions, winter often becomes a time of quiet stillness. Some adults find sheltered places such as hollow trees, rock crevices, or protected areas within buildings. There they fold their wings and enter a state of reduced activity known as diapause. During this time, their metabolism slows dramatically. The butterfly conserves energy, relying on reserves gathered during the warmer months. If you imagine a butterfly resting in such a hidden shelter, you might picture it tucked gently beneath a piece of bark or within a narrow crack in a stone wall. Outside, winter winds move across the land. Snow may cover fields and forests. Yet inside the small shelter, the butterfly remains still, its wings closed, its body quiet, waiting. The lengthening days of late winter gradually signal that the seasons are shifting once more. Sunlight begins to linger a little longer in the sky. Temperatures rise slowly. Within the resting butterfly, biological signals begin to change again. Eventually, the warmth returns strongly enough to awaken the butterfly from its long stillness. It moves slowly at first, testing the warmth of the air. The wings open gently, absorbing the sunlight that powers the muscles of flight. Soon the butterfly lifts into the air again, entering a landscape that has begun to bloom once more. The cycle continues. Across the world, butterflies follow these seasonal rhythms year after year. Their lives unfold in harmony with the turning of the earth, the movement of sunlight, and the changing availability of plants. This quiet relationship with the seasons reminds us how deeply connected living creatures are to their environment. If you imagine the butterfly now moving through a spring meadow, you might notice how natural the rhythm feels. Wings rising softly, flowers opening beneath warm light, life continuing through patient cycles of rest and renewal. As you listen tonight, you might feel a similar rhythm settling into your own body. Breathing slowly, thoughts growing softer. There is nothing you need to prepare for tonight, no season to navigate. Just the calm presence of this quiet story moving gently through time. And as the seasons continue to shape the lives of butterflies across the world, another layer of their story emerges, one that reveals just how many different forms these delicate travelers can take across the wide diversity of the Earth's landscapes. If you imagine the quiet meadow from earlier in our journey, out with its warm sunlight and drifting wings, it might seem as though butterflies belong only to peaceful gardens and gentle fields. But the truth is far wider and more fascinating. Butterflies live across much of the planet, inhabiting landscapes that stretch far beyond a single meadow. From humid tropical forests to cool mountain valleys, from windswept coastlines to quiet woodland clearings, these delicate travelers have found ways to adapt to many different corners of the earth. Wherever flowering plants grow and sunlight reaches the land, butterflies often follow. Their diversity is remarkable. Across the world, thousands of butterfly species exist, each shaped by the environment where it lives. Though they all share the familiar structure of wings, antennae, and slender bodies, their colors, shapes, and behaviors vary in ways that reflect the landscapes they call home. In tropical forests, butterflies often display some of the most vibrant colors found anywhere in nature. Deep blues shimmer beneath the canopy, bright oranges drift through the warm air, and patterns of black and gold flash among the leaves. The abundance of flowering plants in these regions provides a steady supply of nectar, allowing many species to thrive year-round. Warm temperatures support continuous cycles of growth, meaning caterpillars, chrysalises, and adult butterflies may all be present at the same time. The forest itself becomes a living mosaic of movement and color. Some tropical butterflies grow quite large, with wings wide enough to glide gracefully between the towering trees. Their flight often appears slow and deliberate, almost like leaves drifting gently through the forest air. Other species are smaller and more agile, darting quickly through narrow spaces where sunlight filters down in scattered beams. If you were to walk through such a forest, you might notice butterflies at many different heights. Some remain close to the ground, visiting flowers among the undergrowth. Others move higher through the canopy, feeding on blossoms that grow along tall branches. Each species occupies its own quiet place within the forest. Beyond the tropics, butterflies adapt to very different environments. In open grasslands and meadows, butterflies often display colors that blend more closely with their surroundings. Soft browns, pale yellows, and gentle oranges help them merge with grasses and wildflowers. The patterns on their wings may resemble dried leaves, stones, or patches of sunlight filtering through the grass. This subtle camouflage helps protect them from predators that scan the landscape for movement. Butterflies that live in mountainous regions face additional challenges. The air is thinner, temperatures fluctuate more rapidly, and winds can be stronger. Yet, even here, butterflies find ways to survive. Many mountain species have slightly sturdier bodies and wings designed to handle cooler conditions. Their flight may appear slower, conserving energy as they move between the scattered flowers that grow along alpine slopes. Some butterflies rest frequently on warm rocks, using the stored heat to warm their bodies before flying again. In coastal regions, butterflies encounter another unique environment shaped by wind and salt air. The plants that grow near shorelines are often specialized to survive these conditions, and butterflies that feed on them must adapt as well. Their life cycles often follow the rhythm of coastal flowering plants, appearing when nectar is available and fading as seasons shift. Even deserts support certain butterfly species. Though deserts may seem harsh and dry, brief periods of rainfall can trigger sudden bursts of plant growth. When flowers appear across the desert landscape, butterflies may emerge to take advantage of the temporary abundance. Their life cycles are often closely timed with these short windows of opportunity. Across all these environments, butterflies show remarkable flexibility. Some species specialize in feeding on only one or two types of plants. Others can adapt to a wider range of flowers and habitats. This variety allows butterflies to occupy many different ecological roles within their environments. The shapes of their wings often reflect the spaces where they fly. Butterflies that move through dense forests may have broader wings that allow them to glide slowly around obstacles. Species that live in open landscapes sometimes have narrower wings, suited for quicker movement through the air. Even the patterns on their wings can serve different purposes depending on the habitat. In bright tropical forests, bold colors may signal warning messages to predators or help butterflies recognize their own species. In quieter environments like grasslands or woodlands, more subtle patterns help butterflies remain hidden when they rest. Some butterflies display seasonal variations as well. During warmer months, their wings may show brighter colors that help attract mates or signal strength to potential partners. In cooler seasons, the same species may develop darker tones that absorb more heat from sunlight. These seasonal changes help butterflies adjust to shifting environmental conditions. The more scientists study butterflies, the more they discover how closely these insects are tied to the plants and climates around them. A butterfly's life often depends on a small group of host plants where it lays its eggs. If those plants disappear from an area, the butterfly species may struggle to survive there as well. Because of this connection, butterflies are sometimes used by researchers as indicators of environmental health. When butterfly populations change, it may reflect shifts in climate, plant life, or the availability of natural habitats. In this way, butterflies become quiet messengers of the larger world around them. If you imagine the planet now from a wider view, you might picture countless landscapes stretching across continents and islands. Forests breathing softly beneath the sunlight, grasslands swaying with the wind, mountains rising above valleys filled with wildflowers. And in many of these places, butterflies drift gently through the air, each species carrying its own patterns, colors, and rhythms shaped by the land where it lives. There is something calming in this quiet diversity, a reminder that life does not unfold in only one way. Instead, it spreads across the world in countless variations, each one adapting gently to the conditions around it. As you listen tonight, you might imagine these butterflies moving through their different homes across the earth. Some gliding beneath tropical trees, some resting on sunlit meadow flowers, some drifting quietly along mountain slopes where the air grows cool and thin. All of them part of the vast and delicate tapestry of life. Your breathing may feel slower now, your thoughts softer, the world continuing its quiet patterns far beyond this moment. And as we follow the story of butterflies further, another gentle question begins to emerge. What do these delicate creatures reveal about the health of the natural world they inhabit? If you imagine standing quietly in a meadow once again, perhaps in the gentle warmth of late afternoon, you may notice how butterflies seem to belong naturally within the landscape. They drift among flowers, pause on leaves, and rise again into the soft currents of air. Their presence feels peaceful, almost decorative. Yet beneath that calm beauty lies something deeper. Butterflies are not only graceful travelers of sunlight and flowers. They also carry quiet information about the health of the environments they inhabit. To scientists who study nature, the presence of butterflies can reveal subtle changes happening across entire ecosystems. In a way, butterflies act like gentle messengers. Because their lives are closely tied to plants, temperature, and seasonal rhythms, they respond quickly when these elements begin to change. When a habitat remains balanced, butterflies often thrive. When the environment shifts in unexpected ways, their numbers and behaviors may shift as well. This sensitivity makes butterflies valuable indicators of environmental conditions. You might think of them as delicate sensors moving through the natural world. Butterflies depend on several key elements to survive. They need specific plants where they can lay their eggs. Those plants must provide food for the caterpillars that will hatch from those eggs. Adult butterflies also require flowers that produce nectar, providing energy for flight and reproduction. If any part of this chain is disturbed, butterflies often feel the effect. For example, if a certain plant species disappears from an area, the butterfly species that relies on that plant may struggle to reproduce there. Without suitable leaves for caterpillars to eat, the life cycle cannot continue. Similarly, if flowering plants become scarce, adult butterflies may find it difficult to gather enough nectar to sustain their energy. These quiet relationships between butterflies and plants create delicate ecological connections. When scientists observe butterfly populations over time, they can learn a great deal about how landscapes are changing. If a region that once supported many butterflies begins to show fewer individuals, it may signal that something in the environment has shifted, and perhaps certain plants are disappearing. Perhaps temperatures have changed in ways that affect breeding cycles. Even small variations in climate can influence butterfly activity. Butterflies rely heavily on warmth to power their flight. If temperatures remain cooler than usual during key seasons, butterflies may be less active or may delay important stages of their life cycle. On the other hand, warmer temperatures may cause butterflies to emerge earlier in the year than they once did. In some places, scientists have observed butterflies appearing weeks earlier than in previous decades. This shift can affect the timing of pollination and plant growth as well. If butterflies emerge before certain flowers bloom, they may struggle to find nectar. If plants bloom earlier but pollinators arrive later, the plants may receive less pollination. These subtle changes ripple gently through the ecosystem. Because butterflies are relatively easy to observe compared to many other insects, they have become an important focus for environmental monitoring. Researchers and nature enthusiasts alike often participate in butterfly surveys, quietly counting and recording the species they see in different habitats. Over time, these observations build a clearer picture of how butterfly populations are changing. Some species expand their ranges into new areas as climates shift. Others may retreat to cooler regions or higher elevations. The patterns of movement reveal how sensitive living creatures are to the balance of temperature, rainfall, and plant life around them. You might imagine a scientist walking slowly through a meadow on a warm summer day. A small notebook rests in their hand. Each butterfly drifting past is observed carefully, its species noted with quiet attention. This simple act of watching becomes a form of listening to the landscape. Butterflies also help support the ecosystems they inhabit. As they visit flowers in search of nectar, they contribute to the process of pollination, helping plants reproduce and maintain healthy populations. These plants, in turn, provide food and shelter for many other organisms, from insects to birds and mammals. In this way, butterflies play a small but meaningful role in maintaining ecological balance. Even their earlier life stage as caterpillars contributes to the natural cycle. Caterpillars feed on plant leaves. shaping plant growth and providing food for birds and other animals. Many young birds depend on caterpillars as a source of protein during nesting seasons. So the quiet life of a butterfly touches many parts of the food web. When butterflies flourish, they often signal that a habitat still supports a rich variety of plant life. Their presence suggests that the landscape continues to provide the conditions needed for complex ecological relationships to thrive. But when butterflies decline in number, it can serve as a gentle warning that something within the environment may be shifting. Habitat loss, changes in land use, pesticide exposure, and climate variations can all influence butterfly populations. Understanding these changes helps scientists and conservationists take steps to protect natural habitats, where butterflies and many other species depend on healthy ecosystems. Even small actions can make a difference. Planting native flowers in gardens and parks can create safe spaces where butterflies can feed and reproduce. Protecting natural meadows and forests preserves the host plants needed for caterpillars. When landscapes include a variety of flowering plants that bloom across different seasons, butterflies find the resources they need throughout their life cycle. In many communities around the world, people have begun creating butterfly gardens, small patches of habitat designed to support these delicate insects. These gardens often include both nectar-rich flowers for adult butterflies and host plants where eggs can be laid. Watching butterflies return to such spaces can feel like witnessing the quiet recovery of a living system. If you imagine a small garden now, filled with blooming flowers and warm sunlight, you might picture a butterfly drifting slowly from blossom to blossom. Its wings move gently, its body gathers nectar, and without knowing it, the butterfly becomes part of a larger story unfolding within the ecosystem. As you listen tonight, you may feel a sense of calm in that image, the natural world moving quietly around us. Small creatures carrying subtle messages about the balance of life on Earth. Your own breathing steady and relaxed. Your thoughts drifting softly like wings through warm air. There is nothing you need to solve or change in this moment. Just the gentle awareness that even the smallest lives can reveal something meaningful about the world we share. And as we continue this peaceful journey through the world of butterflies, one final reflection begins to unfold. Because when we step back and look at the quiet influence of these delicate creatures, we begin to see how even the lightest wings can shape the rhythm of life across the earth. If you stand quietly in a garden or meadow long enough, you may begin to notice how many small lives move gently around you. A bee hums softly between flowers. A breeze brushes through tall grasses. And somewhere, almost unnoticed, a butterfly drifts across the open air. Its wings move slowly, opening and closing like a calm breath. From a distance, this movement may seem simple, almost decorative. Butterflies often appear as brief flashes of color, moving through sunlight, touching down on a flower for a moment, before lifting away again. But beneath this quiet beauty, butterflies are part of a much larger story unfolding within the natural world. Every movement they make connects them to a network of life that stretches across forests, fields, and gardens. When a butterfly settles on a flower and uncoils its long proboscis to drink nectar, it gathers energy that allows it to continue flying. Yet at the same time, its body brushes lightly against the flower's pollen. Those tiny grains of pollen cling gently to the scales and fine hairs that cover the butterfly's body. Later, when the butterfly visits another flower, some of that pollen may transfer to the new blossom. This quiet exchange helps plants reproduce. Flowers that receive pollen can develop seeds, allowing the next generation of plants to grow. Those plants will eventually produce leaves, nectar, and shelter that support many other living creatures. In this way, a butterfly's brief visit to a flower becomes part of a much larger cycle of growth. Even though butterflies are not always the most efficient pollinators compared to bees, their role remains important. Many flowers rely on a wide variety of pollinators to maintain healthy populations. Butterflies help extend this network of pollination across different times of day and across different plant species. As they move through their environment, butterflies also serve as a source of food for other animals. Birds, spiders, reptiles, and small mammals may occasionally hunt butterflies or their earlier life stages. Though this may seem like a harsh reality, it forms an essential part of the balance within ecosystems. The energy gathered by caterpillars when they feed on leaves becomes nourishment for the animals that eat them. In this way, butterflies transfer energy from plants into the broader food web. Young birds, for example, often rely heavily on caterpillars during nesting season. Caterpillars are rich in nutrients that help growing chicks develop strong bodies and feathers. A single caterpillar may become a small but vital contribution to the survival of an entire nest. The butterfly's earlier life stage therefore plays an important role in supporting many other species. Even after butterflies complete their transformation and take to the air, their presence continues to influence the landscape around them. Butterflies help shape plant communities through the way they interact with flowers and host plants. When female butterflies lay their eggs on certain plants, the caterpillars that emerge will feed on those leaves. This feeding rarely destroys the plant entirely. Instead, it gently shapes how plants grow and distribute their energy. Plants and insects have evolved together over millions of years, each influencing the other's development. Some plants produce chemicals that discourage most insects from feeding on them. Yet, certain butterfly species have adapted to tolerate these chemicals, allowing them to use those plants as host sites for their eggs. In turn, the presence of those specialized butterflies helps maintain the diversity of plant life in the region. The relationships are quiet but deeply interconnected. Butterflies also serve as indicators of ecological health in ways that extend beyond pollination and food webs. Because they respond quickly to changes in temperature, plant availability, and habitat conditions, butterflies often reflect the overall state of the environment where they live. When landscapes remain rich with native plants and natural habitats, butterfly populations often flourish. When those habitats are disturbed or reduced, butterfly numbers may decline. For scientists and conservationists, observing butterflies can provide valuable clues about the health of ecosystems. The absence of certain butterfly species may signal that particular host plants have disappeared from the area. Changes in migration timing or seasonal activity may reflect shifts in climate patterns. Even the diversity of butterfly species within a habitat can reveal how well that environment supports a variety of plants and other organisms. In this way, butterflies quietly mirror the conditions of the world around them. Yet, despite all these roles, butterflies rarely draw attention to the work they perform. They do not build large nests like birds They do not create towering structures like ants or termites. Their contributions unfold quietly through small moments repeated thousands of times across the landscape. A butterfly landing on a flower, a caterpillar nibbling gently on a leaf, a chrysalis resting unseen beneath a branch. Each of these moments plays a small role in maintaining the balance of life around them. If you imagine the world now from above, you might picture countless small habitats scattered across the planet. Meadows filled with wildflowers, forest clearings where sunlight touches the ground, gardens blooming beside homes and quiet pathways. Within all these places, butterflies continue their gentle movements. They drift through warm air. They rest on leaves. They feed on flowers that open each morning beneath the rising sun. Their wings carry no loud message, no dramatic display of effort. Yet their quiet presence helps sustain the living systems around them. As you listen tonight, you might picture one of these butterflies resting peacefully on a flower. The wings fold together softly above its body. The evening air cools slightly as the sun lowers toward the horizon. For a moment, the butterfly remains perfectly still. In that stillness, the delicate work of its life continues quietly, woven into the larger rhythm of nature. Your breathing may feel slow and steady now, your thoughts drifting gently like wings moving through soft air. There is nothing you need to remember, nothing you need to hold onto, just the calm awareness that even the smallest creatures carry quiet influence through the world. And as our gentle exploration nears its final reflection, the story of butterflies invites one last peaceful thought about how these delicate lives remind us of the quiet patience and transformation that shape the natural world. As the quiet story of butterflies begins to settle into its final moments, you might imagine the world growing softer around you. The meadow we visited earlier is still there, resting under the gentle hush of evening. The sunlight that once warmed the flowers has faded into the calm glow of dusk, and the air moves slowly through the grasses. Somewhere among the leaves, a butterfly rests with its wings folded gently above its body. Its movement has slowed now. The day's drifting flights, visits to flowers, and careful navigation through the landscape have come to a peaceful pause. Like many creatures that depend on warmth and light, butterflies settle into stillness as evening arrives. The wings close quietly, forming a delicate shelter around the body. And in that quiet moment, the story of the butterfly becomes something larger than a single life. It becomes a reminder of the many gentle rhythms that move through the natural world every day. Throughout our journey together, we have followed the life of the butterfly from its smallest beginnings. A tiny egg resting almost invisibly on a leaf, holding within it the early spark of transformation. Inside that fragile shell, life begins quietly. Cells divide and organize, forming the simple structure of a caterpillar that will soon emerge into the world. When the egg opens, the caterpillar begins its steady work of feeding and growing, slowly gathering the energy that will shape its future. Its days pass in patient rhythm, eating leaves, growing stronger, shedding its outer skin as the body inside expands. Each moment of growth prepares the caterpillar for a transformation that remains hidden within its own biology. Eventually, the caterpillar finds a safe place to rest and forms the chrysalis, entering a stage of stillness that seems almost mysterious from the outside. Inside that quiet chamber, the body begins to reorganize itself in extraordinary ways. Tissues dissolve and reform. Structures that once supported crawling gradually give way to wings, antennae, and the delicate organs of flight. The chrysalis hangs silently while this transformation unfolds. Days pass. Sunlight warms the surface. The cool nights settle around it. And within that stillness, the butterfly slowly takes shape. When the moment arrives for the butterfly to emerge, it does so gently. The casing opens and the butterfly pulls itself free into the open air. Its wings are small and folded at first, but with time they expand and strengthen as fluid flows through the delicate veins. The butterfly waits patiently while the wings dry in the sunlight. Only then does it lift into the air for its first quiet flight. From that moment onward, the butterfly becomes part of the living landscape around it. It moves among flowers, gathering nectar that fuels its journey through fields and forests. At the same time, it carries tiny grains of pollen between blossoms, helping plants continue their cycles of growth and renewal. Even in this simple act of feeding, the butterfly participates in a larger network of life. Plants, insects, birds, and countless other organisms depend on one another in ways that often remain unseen. The butterfly's wings may seem delicate, but their movements ripple outward through the ecosystem. As we discovered along the way, butterflies also carry remarkable abilities that guide them through their world. Their wings shimmer with microscopic scales that bend light into brilliant colors. Their antennae detect faint scents drifting through the air. Their compound eyes gather wide views of the landscape, helping them navigate among flowers and leaves. Some butterflies even undertake long migrations, traveling across vast distances, guided by sunlight and seasonal rhythms. These journeys unfold quietly, generation after generation, connecting distant landscapes through the steady movement of wings. Yet even as butterflies travel, they remain deeply connected to the environments that sustain them. The plants where they lay their eggs, the flowers that provide nectar, and the warm sunlight that powers their flight. When these elements remain balanced, butterflies flourish. And when scientists observe butterfly populations over time, they often gain valuable insights into the health of the ecosystems around them. In this way, butterflies become quiet indicators of environmental change. Their presence reflects the delicate balance between climate, plant life, and habitat that supports the wider web of life. But beyond their scientific importance, our butterflies offer something simpler and perhaps even more calming. They remind us that transformation often unfolds through patience. A creature that begins life as a tiny egg becomes a crawling caterpillar. That caterpillar enters stillness within the chrysalis. And from that stillness, wings eventually emerge. It is a story of change carried gently through time. A reminder that growth does not always happen quickly or dramatically. Sometimes it unfolds quietly, hidden from view, until the moment arrives for something new to take shape. If you imagine the butterfly resting now in the quiet meadow, you might notice how peaceful the scene feels. The wings are closed, the body still. The evening air soft and cool. Around it, the natural world continues its quiet rhythms. Flowers close their petals for the night, the sky deepens into shades of blue and silver. And somewhere beyond the meadow, other butterflies settle into their own resting places, are tucked safely among leaves and branches. The day gently fades. As this journey gently comes to a close, notice how wide and still the world feels. So many lives unfolding quietly, whether we see them or not. You don't need to keep their names or stories. They've already done their work. If you enjoy these slow explorations, you can support the channel in any small way that feels natural, so others can find this calm too. But right now, there is nothing to decide and nowhere to go. Let your thoughts soften, your muscles relax, and the night carry you onward, one peaceful breath at a time.